G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the Focke-Wulf 190 A1. Now this was some of my first battles of patch 1.47, I'm flying it with Grievous, and we're on the Norway map with its new air spawn. And I honestly don't think the Allies expected us to be at this altitude when they first showed up. Now of course, previous to patch 1.47, only the Allies started with an air spawn on Norway. The German forces started on the runway, and this gave a definitive advantage to the Allied side. The recent air spawn changes have levelled the playing field quite a bit, however. Now I've encountered a Typhoon 1B late at altitude. I just begin initial engagement with him. Now this was the first time that I actually realised how serious an up-tier me and Grievous were involved in. Between my A1 and his F2, we are actually two of the lowest level aircraft on this match, and this Typhoon 1B is an incredibly dangerous machine that I'm going to have to deal with. So just quickly deploy flaps, bring the nose around fast, and of course they tear off. Now this was my first time experiencing the flap rip bug that was floating around at the start of patch 1.47. But I don't have a flap, there's not much I can do about it now. I've got a Typhoon I've got to kill, it's 700 meters ahead of me. It goes vertical, Grievous has started to engage, however he had to back off. I get a nice side shot on him and just take out his pilot. First kill of the match. From this point, Grievous and I go on the hunt. We've got a P-38G just ahead of us, so we know there's hostiles in this direction. We haven't got visuals on anything else, however, so we're keeping our altitude, trying to push it up over 13,000 feet, staying high as much as we can. The P-38 looked like it was trying to engage there for a split second, but he actually wasn't. He was trying to dive away from the Focke-Wulf 190, so that's alright, just hold altitude. Still getting retract flap warnings. I'm just testing to see whether or not they'll rip off. I can rip off the other one at this point. Only having one flap torn off does destabilise the plane just slightly, but I didn't want to risk actually damaging the plane. At this point I didn't know whether or not anything else had been broken in the aerodynamics for the game. So next up is a Boomerang, and we've got a Mustang 1A. The fact that these two planes can show up in the same match is still something that boggles my mind. Now the first target I was looking to engage was the Mustang 1A. It's actually got an interesting problem at the moment. It is an Allison engine Mustang, and it's at in excess of 14,000 feet. I think it's actually closer to 16,000. Those planes really don't perform very well above about 12. So the A1 actually has more horsepower than that Mustang at this altitude. However, it is still a very manoeuvrable aircraft, and it will dive incredibly fast. It's also, if I burst climb up to it, it's going to kill a lot of my energy trying to get to him and leave me potentially vulnerable for an attack. So I was just trying to work out how to get to him when a better option presented itself, P-47. So I'm going to go for that one instead. Now I think this is another guy that got caught out by the air spawn. I'm pretty sure he was completely AFK at this moment and had no idea what was going on, or was alt-tabbed out or something, and just was not expecting anybody to actually be up here with him. Right at the moment I pulled the trigger, however, he manoeuvres, but it's too little too late. I've already scored hits on his aircraft and I'm right on his ass. And why the Thunderbolt can dive incredibly quickly, so can the 190. There's a critical hit. Critical damage to the rudder eliminates his ability to yaw and makes it extremely difficult for him to be able to manoeuvre out of my way. The only problem is I just ran out of cannon ammunition. Now I have 3,500 rounds of MG on board, which is great, but that is a P-47 Thunderbolt, and these are 30 caliber machine guns. This is going to take a while. Now just carefully trying to pick the lead on this P-47. It was actually really quite hard. It's been a long time since I've relied on German 30 caliber machine guns to get a kill. I've actually forgotten at this point how to effectively lead these guns, so I'm actually learning as I go across. But there's another critical hit, and that takes out the elevator. Now he's rudderless and he has no elevator. He's dead, he just doesn't know it yet. Now, I'm not actually following this guy to try and continue to kill him. If I can get some extra hits on him, that's some extra points, but he's already dead. He's just about to splash down to the ocean, and there he goes, so this is my second kill of the match. But what I was actually doing is trying to build up enough airspeed that I could make this turn and try and keep it above 600, and start making my run back to base, because I had a P-38 on my ass the whole way through that dive. Now, it couldn't quite catch me, but once I make the turn and head back to base, he will. Now, Grievous is moving to engage that P-38, I have to go back to base. I've got 2,500 rounds of MG on board, and I've already shown I'm not quite as efficient as I think I should be at the moment, leading those 30 caliber machine gun rounds. However, at this point in the battle, it's not really going to make much of a difference. The enemy team has basically been annihilated. There's only 2 aircraft remaining, and they're both at low energy, at low altitude, being attacked by multiple aircraft on our team at the same time. Now, this is a battle that probably won't replicate too often in the future. I honestly think what actually happened here is the Allied team were expecting the Germans to start on the runway, as they had for the entirety of patch 1.45. They were not expecting a German team that actually starts at equal altitude to where they are and immediately went to the climb. And they basically got jumped. Anyways, let's end this one here up and go check out the results. So, second place for the team with 2 kills, Professional X2, Shadow Strike X2, Teamwork, the Best Squad, and Balancer, 41,940 Silver Lions, and 5,342 research points, and the Focke-Wulf 200 C1 Condor unlocked, my first plane for patch 1.47. So for the second battle of this video, we start with the BF-109G2. Now, this is, well, really, this battle should have been a bit of a reminder to me to actually check the status of my aircraft before taking off. Just before patch 1.47 dropped, I'd actually been playing around with a couple of my arcade-only subs, doing a couple of arcade matches. As a result, my G2 wasn't exactly in its normal, realistic combat state. I was only carrying a 20-minute fuel load, I had both gun pods on, and I was loaded with stealth rounds. Now, this is not the way I like to fly, as it severely reduces the manoeuvring advantages of an aircraft like the G2. Things like the LA-5 will easily be able to outmaneuver me. However, sometimes the enemy just goes out of their way to make things easy for you. I still cannot work out why people in I-16s or Yak-3Ps still today continue to go head-on with aircraft like the G2, knowing how many cannons they can be carrying. But anyways, my first kill of the match, an I-16, we got a Yak-3P up ahead, still at over 14,000 feet. He doesn't appear to see me coming in, so I'm just watching him at the moment. I'm going to try and range snipe him. I'm hoping I'll be able to use the stealth rounds to an advantage here, and he won't actually realise I'm firing until I hit him. The question is, can I aim the stealth rounds well enough? And yes, it turns out I can. Second kill of the match. So apparently that Yak-3 that I shot earlier on took my putting a few rounds into his plane rather personally, and he's been trying to sneak up behind me ever since. However, I spot him coming and I put the nose down. Now there's an LA-5 below me. I'm going to dive on the LA-5 and in the process drag this Yak-3, which is the last aircraft at altitude on the enemy team, all the way to the nearest Allied fighters. Now Grievous is just moving in to intercept him at the moment. He's already been intercepted by one of our other teammates, and I'm breaking through the clouds and pulling out the other side back for altitude. I am just going to confirm that this is the last plane left floating around, but I can't see any dots or any movement up at altitude besides this Yak-3. Now he's being forced down, Grievous is on his tail, we've got a 190 on him and a second 109 is also in position. I begin the turnaround and head back in his general direction, but he's pretty much stuffed at this point in time. Now there's an I-16 down low, and these are the only two enemies that I can see, and judging by the amount of our team and the turning that seems to be going on down below, I would say that is where the rest of their team is. Now we do appear to be missing a couple of aircraft on the enemy team that I haven't spotted yet. 3 kilometers out of this Yak-3, closing fast. 2.9, just keeping a watch out, making sure he's not running for the missing aircraft that we can't seem to find at the moment. Almost there. Now I have to be very, very, very careful when I engage. At the moment I'm right on the red line at 750 kilometers an hour. If I maneuver too hard I could potentially break my wings. However, he could do the same thing. Over he goes, and there he goes, snapped his wings off. So why no kill on that one? He did appear to be running for backup from an IL-2, which is one of the aircraft that we haven't managed to locate yet. Now I've pulled it back to altitude to bleed off that speed and get a little bit of dive room available to myself again. Unfortunately for me, the 190 that was engaging the Yak-3 at altitude as well has followed him down. Now, because I went vertical to get a bit of altitude, he finds himself in a much better position to close range rapidly on that IL-2. It's unlikely I'm going to get there in time to get the kill. So I'm just cruising along at altitude looking for additional targets and keeping an eye on the off chance that the IL-2 actually manages to get him. However, I don't like his chances. Now, as I said before, Grievous was in this match too, but you haven't seen a huge amount of him. This is because he's in his 410. He flew out his 410 for a little bit of a laugh and then discovered on the runway at the start of the match that the 410 now has a cockpit that opens and closes. So he promptly slowed his aircraft down at the start of the match to open up the cockpit and has been laughing his ass off this entire match, flying around with the doors open. Not exactly great for your combat efficiency, but God, it was bloody funny. He was cackling like a child. It was bloody hilarious. Now, the enemy team has basically folded at this point, and the last enemy aircraft has shown its face. And of all things to run into, it's a bloody year too. I couldn't ask for a better target. Now, I normally don't like loading the G2 up with underwing cannons. The underwing cannons were really assembled on this aircraft for anti-bomber roles. And now I have a bomber to use them on. One shot underneath, get some good solid hits, take the plane into the vertical, drop it below 260 to roll it over. I'm not using combat flaps because, obviously with the bug in the game at the moment, that will just tear them off. Yer goes vertical for God knows what reason and just presents me with a perfect target for my third kill of the match. I couldn't have asked for a better one. So with 3 kills down, and that was the last plane to be removed, let's go through and check out the results. So first place for the team with 3 kills, Ground Forces Rescuer, Professional X2, Shadow Strike X2, Windstreak X3 and the best squad, 45,715 Silver Lions, and came in with 5,928 research points. And that was the start of my G14 research. So as it turns out, not a bad battle after all, despite completely forgetting the fact that I had gun pods on my aircraft and not checking to see whether or not I had the correct ammo types that I prefer to use in RB loaded in them. Something that I really need to keep double checking in the future. And not a bad start to the patch 1.47 research grind. This very first night, within the first 4 hours after the patch dropped, I actually got the Focke-Wulf Condor, the G14 and the Tiger tank, the new Tiger E, unlocked. So it wasn't a bad start, and you can expect those machines to be coming to the channel in the very near future. Anyways, ladies and gents, I'm going to call this one here. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.